Liberalism. The term liberalism means free. It denotes the freedom of individual and equality of everyone before law. The idea of liberalism is a part of current ideologies. Since human beings started to live in group and form society, various social ideas had persisted among them. Political and moral philosophies which are based on liberty, consent of citizen, and equality before law is a key aspect of liberalism. In order to understand liberalism, we should have an idea about the world before the introduction of liberalism. What was the situations and how did the people live? The society before introduction of liberalism did not support free thinking or freedom of thought. People were suppressed by absolute monarch and religious ideologies. Certain section of the society enjoyed some privileges by birth. Such social instability and suppression of people by power can be seen all over the world, including the Western countries. John Locke, an English philosopher and physician, is credited for the idea of liberalism. He is known as father of liberalism. Liberalism brought political and economic changes. It transformed political and economic system that existed during the time. It uprooted the power of monarch and the divine rights of king, replaced it with liberty, equality, freedom of thought, individual rights, and so on. It restricted the power of government on people. Civil rights and human rights were highlighted. It also enhanced the society with a stable environment in terms of freedom. Ideas of democracy, gender equality, human rights, racial equality, freedom of speech, freedom of religion reverberated in the entire society, leading to a better social system. Free markets and free trade are the economic reforms that liberalism brought. Earlier, the markets were restricted. The activities of market, such as buying and selling, did not occur smoothly because of the laws induced by the government and ruling powers. After the introduction of liberalism, sellers were able to regulate the price of goods and a buyer can bargain freely. This boosted the economic activities and led to the establishment of free markets. Another economic reform that took place by the introduction of liberalism was the concept of free trade. Earlier, governments imposed restriction on trade activities. This was a barrier for the free flow of goods. Duties and regulations imposed always put the traders in trouble. Liberalism changed the situation. The activities of trade became liberal. Government supported traders, providing subsidies for export goods. Governments today control only the trade activities of natural resources, making a healthy global economic system. Advantages of liberalism. It promotes socio-economic change. Liberalism is a synonym of tolerance, freedom, freedom of expression, liberty and equality, acceptance of different ideas and viewpoints. Today, liberalism has taken its complete form as a political philosophy which is based on ideas of liberty and equality. These include freedom of speech, freedom of civil rights, freedom of religion, freedom of press, free markets, and free trade. Disadvantages of liberalism. Government dependency. The idea of liberalism promotes right of citizen, but in a country, the rights of the citizen is laid down by the Constitution. Therefore, a person following the Constitution is indirectly depending on the government. Misuse of free market and free trade. The concept of free market and free trade was introduced to boost the economic sector, but the same idea has led to the uncontrolled growth of multinational companies. But still, the idea of liberalism as an ideology had made a positive impact in the history. The disadvantage of this ideology can be rectified by sensible intervention. Neoliberalism. The idea of neoliberalism was introduced in the 19th century. Neoliberalism or new liberalism borrowed its basic principle from the classical liberalism introduced in the 17th century. Free market, free trade, liberty, and democracy are the main pillars of this system. This system promotes privatization of economic system, a market without regulation and less influence by the government. This will lead to the privatization of the public sector. Education system was the most affected by the introduction of neoliberalism. Earlier, in the Western countries, education was provided for free by the government. But by the introduction of neoliberalism, the education system fell into the hands of filthy capitalists. The education provided by the new authority, governed by the capitalists, induced huge economic burden on the population. Let us check out what neoliberalism was actually meant for. Imagine a market influenced by government regulation in a lesser manner. In such a scenario, the seller can fix the price according to his wish. Buyer come to the market, bargain and purchase goods at a convenient price depending on his economic situation. Here, both seller and buyer are satisfied. Seller, with his surplus amount which he received as profit, will be able to buy more goods. In an economic system influenced by neoliberalism, free trade is promoted. Therefore, seller can import more goods since goods are available cheaply in the absence of duties and regulation. More goods lead to more sales and in turn more profit. As the time goes, the seller is now capable of expanding his business, which will lead to job opportunity. From a seller, he has expanded his business and is now capable of giving jobs. Being a part of economic system which follow neoliberalism, he has become self-sufficient. This will happen to all traders in the market, making the economic system self-sufficient and in the end leading to the privatization of the public sector and decreased influence of government. This was the aim of neoliberalism. But in the actual practice, this does not happen and the situation is entirely different. The economic system following neoliberalism is less influenced by the government power, but the same aspect lead to the domination of market by the richer section. Market fall into the hands of certain rich section. We can call them capitalist. The rich becomes richer and the poor gets poorer. Wealth gets accumulated in the hands of capitalists, leading to inequality and instability in the economic system, which is a clear violation of basic principle of neoliberalism. In such a situation, government will remain helpless even in the case of providing basic facilities, since all the public system would have already undergone privatization. All public systems fall into the control of capitalists. Such a scenario is observed in developed nations and developing nations. Therefore, we can conclude, if neoliberalism follow all its basic principles, it will make a positive impact, both in economic and political aspect. But if one of the principles is violated, it will become a